Hey, what's up everybody? OJ here. Welcome back to another Nintendo Switch discussion video. Today, we're going to be talking about the biggest threat to the Nintendo Switch, and it might not be what you guys are thinking. So many times in the business of the video game industry, the threats to a company could be this company or that company coming in with a product that's superior, that has better games, or just flat out, just more people want to respond to it. We've seen Nintendo, we've seen Microsoft just get washed by the competition at times, right? With Sony coming in with their systems. And some people are thinking, oh, with the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox, that this is the biggest threat to what Nintendo's doing. But I really don't think that is the case at all. It does seem like the market is actually so complex at this point. The drastic difference of what Nintendo is doing has literally created a divide in terms of what gamers are looking for. And even within gamers who like the standard video games, they'll pick up the Nintendo Switch as a secondary console or as something else otherwise, just because it provides something that is different than what those other systems can do. So I really don't think that Microsoft and Sony are really a threat to Nintendo. That's not the biggest threat. And I also don't think that the threat to Nintendo could be what's going on right now with the CV. Now, yes, sales can be down. There's definitely going to be some stock issues. Obviously, that's going to be the case. But at some point, that's going to recover. At some point, things are going to get back on track. And so that's a short-term thing. And in business, you're in it for the long haul, not the short term. So I'm not even really worried about that either. I think the biggest threat to Nintendo is definitely Nintendo themselves when it comes to what are they going to bring to the table. People have already started kind of panicking about their 2020 lineup. I've heard so many people say, oh, well, Nintendo's not prepared and Nintendo doesn't have anything and Nintendo's lineup is weak. And those type of fears are not because of impending systems or not because of what Nintendo's currently doing in terms of games that they have on their system, because the library is really good. It's just for the fear that there isn't anything, that Nintendo can't produce big hits like they have because they've already kind of put out all of their big guns. So for example, Pokemon Sword and Shield, that's already out. Mario, that's already out. We have multiple Mario games that are already out. The Legend of Zelda, that's already out. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is doing well, so why bring another Mario Kart, I've heard people say. So people think that Nintendo has already kind of spent everything that's in the tank, that they don't have much more to show. That's the reason why things are being delayed, even though there's no official release date for Nintendo Directs, but things are being pushed and everything like that. And I think that at the end of the day, when you boil it down to its core, what can stop Nintendo from being successful with the Switch? What can stop it? And that would just be themselves not being able to put out the type of games first party wise and getting content on their platform. So I think that's a bigger threat to Nintendo than anything. And Nintendo, I think, knows this. That's why Nintendo is so hyper focused on games. They are so hyper focused on just the gaming aspect of the Nintendo Switch. They're more focused on the gaming aspect of the Nintendo Switch that they forgot to do all the stuff that they normally do with their systems, with stuff like folders and themes and other things like that. They had Miiverse beforehand. They had a lot of different apps on previous systems with the Wii U, more like it. And even the Nintendo 3DS had some stuff or had a number of features that the Switch still doesn't have. They're so hyper focused on the gaming aspect of that system. And don't get me wrong, I want all those things. I just think that Nintendo's focus is so much on that after combining their R&D developments, right? You have a lot of people that were working on 3DS games, now working on Switch games, and the adjustment period there. There's a lot of the people that kind of worked on what the Wii U was and kind of getting all that different stuff, all the negative feedback and everything, and just hyper focused on making a system that can run what they want to do as efficiently as possible. And anything that could actually be a big threat in terms of the momentum for the Nintendo Switch right now is pretty much within. Can Nintendo keep up this crazy pace of software? Can they keep up this great games lineup that they've had pretty much every single year since the Switch has launched? It's been a pretty good lineup of games, first party and third party wise. And the thing about it though is that Nintendo also has to do extra, right, when it comes to the system and selling it in order to get third party developers to be interested in it. Nintendo has to go out there and say, this is the reason why the system is appealing. We have sold this much out there. They have to do these little outreach things that they do. There's so many different things that Nintendo has to do because they're not using the norm. They're not having a set-top box, x86, Blu-rays, all this stuff that what developers are looking for, certain power and all that stuff. Nintendo's not doing that. So they really had to kind of carve their own path, and anything that's really the big threat to them is definitely going to be from within if they can't keep up this amazing pace of software. And people are saying, hey, what's going to be coming in 2020? Now, I personally feel that Nintendo's going to have a fantastic lineup for 2020. I think that this year's a bit different because of Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing New Horizons is the game that's kind of causing things to be just a little bit different than usual in terms of a direct and showing off more of the lineup, because you have a huge game that could potentially be a 15+ million unit seller that's releasing in March. With Nintendo, since the Switch has been released, outside of the original launch year with the March release with 2017 with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 2018 and 2019 didn't have a game that was as big as Animal Crossing. There's no game that's ever released in that month for Nintendo since the Switch is released outside of the launch year that has ever had the impact that an Animal Crossing could have. So you kind of have to take some extra time to produce the Animal Crossing Direct. You have to take some extra time to market and kind of put out there and put the focus on that game so people really know about that, because Animal Crossing is just a huge IP and it's going to be massive. So I can understand in terms of how things worked out, and I still feel that we are going to get an amazing Direct this month in March, and I think that there's going to be some great games announced. So really the only threat to Nintendo is if they just can't produce games at a high level in terms of the quality of those games and enough games to satisfy customers out there. And really, I think Nintendo, believe it or not, struggles with that too. I think they go into their meetings and say, how can we continue to make high quality games? People think that it's easy. People think that it's just like some type of formula to where, oh, you just do this, this, and this, put together a game and it works. You put it out there and like 10 million people buy it. But it's just so much more than that. So I know Nintendo's hard at work when it comes to their developers in making sure that they get the most out of what they can do. They get the most out of what they can do with the Switch. They're not really focused on making the games the most realistic looking or having the most top-notch animation, the most top-notch graphics, or whatever the case is. They're just worried about getting the games out, making sure that they are fun to play and they're good games, because Nintendo simply just doesn't have the amount of time, considering what third parties do on the system, which isn't a lot of newer, bigger games. They don't have the type of time to sit around and develop games for like a million years, right? While third parties just put a bunch of stuff on the system and that's how you sell your system. They've got to get first party games out. They've got to have good content at regular paces throughout the year, whether that's going to be remasters or ports or new games like Animal Crossing. So I do think that this year, Nintendo knows that more so than anything, right? They're not necessarily hardcore in competition in terms of Microsoft and Sony and what they're doing in a physical box, but when it comes to time, when it comes to capturing people's time and attention, they're definitely in competition there, and they have to continue putting out those big games. They're going to grab headlines, they're going to get people to look at the Nintendo Switch, because they don't have the type of marketing machine that third parties have with PlayStation and Xbox systems, where you can market this big third-party game as, hey, this is the reason why you buy our system. Heck, people buy PlayStation 4s all day just for Call of Duty, right? Even though that's a third-party game on other platforms, people still buy PlayStation 4 for Call of Duty. So Nintendo doesn't have that luxury as much because a lot of these bigger games aren't coming over. So I think they know that that is the biggest threat to them, to make sure that they can continue to produce amazing high quality content like Animal Crossing and get games exclusive on their system like an Astral Chain, and get stuff on their system like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, or even get stuff on their system that has the impact of like a Super Mario Odyssey or a Splatoon 2, or have the supplementary games like ARMS that kind of delight people with new things. So I think that this year is going to have a mix of everything that I talked about when it comes to what makes Nintendo successful, right, with the gaming, and the mix of the different types of games that Nintendo needs, because every single year it's pretty much been like that. Every single year since the Switch has launched. I mean, everybody might not like certain games that come out, but Nintendo does a pretty good job at getting some of those games like an Octopath Traveler and, like I said, like an Astral Chain, and getting those games that kind of are a bit different, right? Add a little bit of a different flair, but are on the system and people really enjoy it. But then also having those huge games that millions of people buy, like a Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. So I think that this year is going to be very interesting, and I think that Nintendo keeps that threat at bay in terms of intrinsically and continues to produce some pretty high quality content. I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to offer all of us. So what are you guys' thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the link in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video if you can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.